Hello, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to what will hopefully be another quickie recommendations video for you. I am going to try to keep myself to between 10 to 15 minutes for this, so we will jump right off the mark. As you can tell by the title of this, I have some gay romances for you, some male, if you will, men loving men. You know, two sausages in the ring, whatever you want to call it. And I'm very excited because I really love gay romance. I've read quite a few of them this year. I've also made a couple of these videos, by the way, so you can check out the other ones, which I will link on either side. I believe I've made two of these before. One of them I think had, yeah, I think they are all male romances. I don't know, but anyway. It is something that I really love to read, and we're going to go over some that I've read in the last probably like 3 or 4 months. So here we go. Like I said, we're jumping right off. So first off, I got to mention Saint by Simone. This was amazing. This is a second chance romance between basically a millionaire businessman who is having some mental health issues, some very serious ones, and he turns to the church. He turns to celibacy and the life of being a monk to help him. And this is one of the Bell brothers. This is connected with both Priest and Sinner by Simone. This is another brother, and what's unique about this one is that one of our heroes in this, he was in a relationship with the other hero and he kind of just disappeared, and he's never really spoken to his ex-lover about what happened and why everything just blew up. And so he's taken to a life of self-flagellation and abstinence to help kind of reset himself. And our other hero, he decides to he goes to this monastery where he's going to be writing a article or writing a piece about these breweries that these monks have set up. And so it's not just going to be at the monastery where our hero is. They're going to end up going on like a tour of some of them together. And this really puts them back in close proximity, and they're going to be working through their issues. So there's a high level of angst in this book. As with any Simone, you should know what you're getting into. She's not afraid of really putting the screws to your heart, but we are promised an HEA in the end. So this book was beautiful. Painful, but beautiful. So there you go. Then we have the Necessary Evil series by Onley James. Onley James writes pretty much exclusively gay romance from what I see, even though there's a couple of like side characters in her world that I'm like, can you please do like a gay romance for that woman or do like an MMF or something? Like but I get it, and I want there to be the representation for gay romance to be there, but also she creates such great characters that I'm like, can you please have an F in this MM somewhere? But anyway, so we have the first one, which is Unhinged. Then we have Psycho. Then we have Moonstruck. And the next one coming out is Headcase. She also has a novella that will be coming out very soon. And she actually writes on her Patreon. So I've been holding off paying for her Patreon because also I'm on a lot of Patreons, but also I don't think I could be patient enough to just be reading it chapter by chapter. But these are actually about serial killers and psychopaths. It's this family of 7 brothers who is all adopted by Thomas Mulvaney, who is this like rich scientist and psychologist and psychiatrist, all that stuff. And he adopted these 7 boys who all showed signs of psychopathy and showed signs that they could become either a danger to society or just not have a healthy mind. They're all kids who've come from trauma, who've come from childhood abuse or had something awful happen to them. And Thomas takes them under his wing to use them to stop other evils. So that's why this is called Necessary Evil. So basically they are serial killers who hunt serial killers, and that's how it is. So we have the first one, which is Adam Mulvaney. He falls for the son of one of his quote-unquote victims. Remember that guy? He was a bad dude. Then we have Psycho, which is about August Mulvaney, who he falls for a colleague at a school where they work together, who is actually a clairvoyant who can like sense evil when he touches people. So that's very interesting. And then this one is Atticus Mulvaney, who's actually the oldest, and he is a doctor and a scientist as well. And he falls for Jericho, who he runs into when they both go to kill the same man. And boy, does it get spicy from there. So absolutely love those. One other book by Onley James I want to mention, and this is a series that I plan to finish. I just haven't yet because this one was very intense. So there's Intoxicating, and this is the first in a series. I believe they're all bodyguards. I'm not sure, but there was daddy kink in this one. Yep. And this one he is the closeted gay son of like a politician, and so our older hero gets hired to be his bodyguard and like keep him from trouble. And some of that trouble includes like self-harm situations because this poor boy has just been so oppressed and been forced to hide who he is. And so yeah, our hero gets hired to be his bodyguard, and things are not going to stay as you know, businesslike as they would expect. So this was very, very hot. And again, there's daddy kink happening in this, some BDSM situations, but it's delightful. Then we have Enemies of the State by Tal Bauer. So I've actually read the first 2 in this series, but there is like, I think 3 or 4 in this. This is actually the president and his head of Secret Service. And our president, he recently lost his wife. I don't know how recently it was, but he lost his wife, and now he is spending a lot of time, you know, he can't really be open or have a lot of friendships. And one person he spends the most time with is his bodyguard. And this one was really beautiful because I like how it's framed that our president in this, he is really just looking for that connection and companionship. And it isn't so much that our hero is a man that he's attracted to. He's attracted to the companionship and the friendship that they're able to have. So this is the beginning of a series that's all about the same couple. And the thing I didn't like as much of it is that there was a lot of obviously politics and like world politics and a lot of like war that was happening. And so I just wasn't interested in that. But think of like your favorite like political thrillers and like make them gay and kind of romantic, and there you go, you have Enemies of the State. This was a good time. Then I have A Guy Walks Into My Bar, and this is by Lauren Blakely, and this one was originally I think an Audible exclusive. You can get the audio, the ebook now, and it is narrated by Joe Arden and Shane East. And our one hero, he's in England visiting his sister, who is, I can't remember if she's like moving into college there or like what's happening, but he goes to stay with her for like a week, and he hits on the guy who owns the bar there. There's this guy who is played by Shane East, and I say played by because again, this was really like, it was written for them to read it. That's something that Lauren Blakely does, is she writes her books for the narrators who are going to read them. And so her books are very much meant to be experienced that way. And I believe there's another book in this series coming. It's not quite a series. Her stuff doesn't necessarily fit into like a series. But this also has like a full cast. Like some of Lauren Blakely's other popular narrators show up in this one. So this one was very sweet. It was very low angst. You know, it's kind of like a weekend fling that turns into, wow, I've never had a connection with someone like you before. Let's make it happen. And it was great. Then I have King Consort by J.R. Gray. This one was very interesting. Pretend that Prince William is still, you know, he is the heir to the throne, but make him gay. And then our other hero, he is a paparazzi. And this is their romance. Well, spoiler alert, it's called King Consort, so, you know, it's going to work out. Loved this one. Then there is His Cocky Prince by Cole McCabe. So this is book 3 in the Cocky series. This book has some BDSM in it. It has some kink play going on. One thing I will say is that if you're not someone who like has any trigger warnings, like if you don't have them, don't read the trigger warning page for this book. Like if you don't have trigger warnings, don't read the trigger warning page, because something that Cole McCabe does, and I'm not judging them for doing this or saying they shouldn't do it, but there will be the tiniest little things in a book that like it isn't even a trigger. And again, I know I'm speaking from a place of privilege. I do not have triggers, but they will be made out to sound like the scariest thing you've ever heard. So what's a good, I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but if you've ever read the trigger warning page by Cole McCabe and then read his book, you will know what I mean. Like the first one I ever read of his was His Cocky Valet, which is the first in this series. They're not really connected that well at all, so you can read each of these individually, which they are all gay romances, by the way. But I was afraid this was going to be like a freaking torture book because of all the trigger warnings, and like it was not. You know, like bondage was written as the person literally like holding his wrists above his head, which yes, technically that is, but you know, you wouldn't necessarily put a trigger warning. Anyway, my point being, I loved this book. This is a Hollywood romance, and one of our heroes is young, and he's a prince from a very small island. And then our other hero, he's like a very experienced, he's been acting for like 20 years. He's in his 40s. And for the first time ever, he gets hired to play the dad in a movie, and he is having a bit of an identity crisis. Okay, and it's known that he is gay, like it's known, but he's also, you know, it's not the biggest news anymore. And so he gets hired to play the dad of this girl, and then our prince, he, you know, is getting into acting in America, and he's playing like the love interest to the daughter. And so the dad is kind of like the, you know, mustache twirling villain and doesn't want these two to be together. So that's what the film is about. Our story starts off with the prince, because I can't remember his name, so we're just calling him the prince. He is having a meeting with the director, and the director assaults him. The director assaults him and is feeling him up. And our older hero walks in on it and is like, fuck you, what are you doing? And he talks to the prince, and he's like, you can file a report. You absolutely will. I will back you up. And the prince is like, this is my chance to be out there, and I don't want this one experience to like ruin my career because of this slimy guy. I want to make this movie still. And so the older actor is like, all right, I'll support you in that too, but you just got to be aware that like you're going to have to see this person every day, this person who touched you. He's going to be trying to make your life hell, to try to, you know, get ahead of what happened and like blame you, but I'm here to support you. So it's a very interesting look at the Me Too movement from the eyes of like a, you know, two gay men. And yeah, so then this is also an age gap, and it's a little bit kinky, as I've said, and it was actually very sweet. I really, really loved it. Then I have In an Absence of Light by Adrienne Wilder. This is a book that I absolutely loved. I ended up reading a lot by Adrienne Wilder. We'll talk about her again. This is another age gap. This one actually has our older hero is kind of laying low because he's involved in business and helping some people kind of like money launder. So he's trying to like chill out and keep on the DL until the FBI is done following him around. Bummer, his ex-boyfriend was actually an undercover FBI agent, and so they found out a little bit too much about him, more than we would like them to know. So our hero goes to this small town to just kind of hide out for a while, and he meets, I think August is the name of the younger one. I'm not sure, but he is autistic, and he is getting by on his own, but he's gay, and our hero walks in on him having a sexual encounter in a restroom, and he thinks that this autistic man is being attacked by someone. And then, if his name is August, again, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, he punches him like in the face and is like, thanks for being a cockblock, bro. And he's like, I thought you were being assaulted. And he's like, just because I'm autistic doesn't mean that I don't still like to get fucked, okay? So just back off. And this starts this amazing like fiery relationship between them where the one guy's just trying so hard not to be offensive that he's being offensive. And it's one of those situations. And they have some hot, sexy time. I just want to tell you, August is very bendable. It's amazing. There's 2 books in this series, by the way. I really liked it. Then another book by Adrienne Wilder is Wild, and this is one I absolutely loved. I was reading this while I was going on a sprint through a bunch of forced proximity and like survival romances, and this one is just that. Again, we have one man who he is a model and aspiring actor, and his plane with a bunch of other like Hollywood types, they are flying to some event and their plane goes down in the Alaskan wilderness and he is the only survivor. He didn't fall out of his plane and he's about to be eaten by a bear when our hero, who has been living on a mountain for the last decade, comes across and saves him. And the problem is they're in an area where even in the summer, it is very difficult to get to civilization. And our hero, who's been living in the wilderness for 10 years, he has a very specific reason why he's been in the wilderness for 10 years. And he isn't in a hurry to get our hero to civilization. But our hero, who's in the plane crash, has a broken leg. He's had bleeding. He's had a concussion. He is not in great shape. So either way, they're not going to be able to just get out of there that easily. This one was, the emotions in this were very high. This was a very beautiful story. Then we have Wed to the Barbarian by Kiera Andrews. Kiera Andrews writes a lot of wonderful gay romances in like all different time periods and all different setups. This one is literally what it says. We have our one prince who is very kind of feminine, and his family has kind of like given up on him being a good leader or anything, so they decide to use him for a political marriage, and they marry him off to this barbarian prince. And this barbarian prince, they are planning to attack and destroy this other guy's kingdom, and so they want him to be the leverage. And so he does this marriage, but he's very demeaning to him and cruel, and he says he's never going to fuck him, they're never going to have a relationship together, he's just going to be his chattel basically. So this is a very interesting situation. This book actually has it's a duet. I haven't read the second half yet, but I just thought this was a very unique one to share. Our barbarian hero, he has some groveling to do in the next book, and I am excited to read that. I just the second one wasn't out yet when I read it, and then I didn't have time to read it yet. The end of December is a bit busy for me, as we know. So anyway, I had a really good time with it though, and I'm very interested to see what happens next. And then the last one that I want to mention, this is actually the first in a new series by this author, who apparently has a ton of gay romance, and I want to read them for sure. So this is Sailor Proof by Annabeth Albert. There's another one in this series I'll talk about in a minute, like I said. So this book is a brother's best friend romance. So we have Naval Chief Derek Fox, who has recently been broken up with by a fellow sailor, and there's this event that happens that when the submarine arises and they go to the dock, that everyone's like sweethearts will meet them and like kiss them in front of her. Oh, it isn't a fellow soldier. He's broken up with, and his ex-boyfriend is dating a fellow soldier. That's what's happening. And so he knows that his ex-boyfriend is going to be there waiting and is going to now kiss his fellow sailor instead of him. And so his friend, Calder, has a younger brother who has recently come out as gay. He has been gay for a while, and in fact had a crush on Derek for a long time. Actually someone who maybe helped him realize what his sexuality was when he was a younger man. And so Calder is like, hey, how about I ask my brother, whose name is Arthur, to pretend to be your boyfriend? And so you can kiss him when you get off the boat, and then it'll look like you've moved on too. Perfect plan. And so these men, they agree to this farce, but someone takes a video of them kissing and it goes viral. So now it's not just this little moment on the dock, it is a sensation. And they decide to fake date for a while so that their family doesn't immediately be like, oh, you faked it. It's paper thin reasoning, but it's adorable. The next book in this series, which comes out in February, but I have to tell you about it because I got to read an arc for this book. It was so good. This one is about Calder, who's actually bisexual, and he wins a cabin in the woods in a poker game. And so he goes to check out his cabin, and surprise, surprise, the man who gambled the cabin does not actually own it. It's his ex-husband's cabin. And so his ex-husband, Felix, shows up to the cabin that he owns and has been in his family for 3 generations to find this sailor there who has injured himself, and it is a snowstorm, and they are stuck there together for the weekend. But oh wait, he also has his 2 nieces with him that he's a guardian of. So we're all stuck together in this cabin in the woods, and it's just, this romance was so beautiful. Like, seriously, I'll be talking more about this book when it's about to come out, but I wanted to get it on your radar, and maybe you can pre-order it if you're interested. Okay, did not make this in under 15 minutes, but I tried my best. I hope you check out some of these gay romances. These are some that really touched my heart, and I had a great time reading. Let me know some of your favorite gay romances. Like I said, I also have 2 other recommendation videos for this, so check those out. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.